Yo, people, what's going on? What's going on? We are back. We are back, and we are ready to talk about China, as
He
Mr.
said
Trump would say.
China, Chinese
China.
people,
China.
That's from China. That's why it's
China.
from China. China. China.
Chinese people doing pretty better things,
Brother Tings. So
Hmm.
we don't have
especially
Koi today.
President Xi Jinping.
Koi is ill. He said he's ill. So hopefully he feels better here in a few by Friday. He missed some good
Suck down
topics.
that
Today's a
vitamin
good
C,
one.
bro.
Yeah, vitamin C, elderberry, ginger,
Zinc.
garlic. Man, tank up, bro. Tank up. Water, sleep. I'm
Cayenne
saying all
pepper.
the stuff I don't take. Um, I'm mentioning all the stuff that I don't do. Drink more water, take more sleep, do less.
And then harden the hell up.
Yeah. Quit being a little sissy. Come on, man up.
I
Koi.
can't talk.
Join the show while you're sick. Come on.
I was acting hard. I wound up in the hospital for a week.
Yeah, that's true. Don't
Don't do
pull
that.
a bro. Don't pull a bro.
me.
Yeah.
Hardness put you in the hospital real fast. I learned.
So I found an article about what's going on over there in China. Maybe Mello knows more too, because he's the one that brought this to our attention. They're striking into the Middle East with the vacating of it by the United States. So I just want to make sure you have this article in your head, guys, before we get moving. And before Mello chimes in on what he found out, I'm going to play you a little commercial break real quick, and then we'll do it again at the end to let you guys know some things going on with Fair Media. Here you go.
Hey you, would you like Too Strong to promote your product or your social media platform? We have over 200,000 subscribers and followers combined. We'll promote your product or channel in the beginning of our live show. You can also provide us a link and we'll put it in our comment section forever. Get started today. All you have to do is email us at toostrongpodcast@gmail.com. Any and all promotions are subject to approval by Fair Media.
Yeah. Fear.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair media.
Let me copy the hot stones. Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of gays.
I like those guys.
All kinds.
So Mello, you had told us that China was striking some deals up inside of the Middle East. What did you find out?
So them importing half of their oil resource and combining with Saudi Arabia, they basically just stamped their own currency on the oil inside the Middle East, which is really big concerning Saudi Arabia and Iran, because America had that going for a long time. So to knock America off that position is is big, because America went to war for this how many times? Defending the oil
Twice.
over there twice.
Twice.
I don't see us going to war again over this. It's too much.
Not with Biden, anyways.
I don't know, man. That that military-industrial complex, man, they are trigger freaking happy.
But not with China.
Yeah, not with China. But, it shouldn't be a surprise to us. China has always had its foot somewhere. Their foot is all up in America, but they don't want to talk about that, though. They don't want to talk about how much land China actually owns in America. But, this is part of, I don't know if we're going to talk about it, this is part of the whole BRICS thing.
Mhm.
So this is just playing right into it. They're trying to take us out, make us a third world country.
For real.
Well, they're already doing it internally here, right? So that I think this is a two-part plan. So you create instability between another superpower like Russia and another proxy company, and then you start striking up deals with the subservient country, Ukraine, thereby breaking down the United States dollar. And you leave a room for the one people that you actually want to have rulership, which is China. And they've been trying that since the first Bush. Really, first Bush was really the guy that kickstarted a whole bunch of deals with China, even though they were in a bunch of human rights violations. So you have an entire infrastructure that's been happening. And now we have, as you can see, a massive problem occurring. Now, we were always the police, right? The world police. And we were peace in the Middle East and all that nonsense, instead of leaving them to do what they do for themselves and occasionally purchase oil, which we don't need to because we have enough reserves here, which is what Trump was trying to do. So with this happening, is this the precursor to the Chinese government being the next world superpower?
I think
Yes,
so.
I can see that. I can almost see them. They're already starting to destroy our economy. Food prices are off the roof. Freaking gas prices are crazy in some states. Factories and warehouses are burning down. So now there's a food shortage. Trains are being derailed. So what you said about China being the next world police, I think some of the powers that be are actually trying to destabilize our country, because before you go into any country, there usually has to be some type of destabilization for another country to come in to help stabilize it. So if they can destabilize America, and they're saying this out of control, and people are going to be going crazy, they're going to be rioting, they're going to be looting, they're going to be stealing everything, murdering, it's just going to be chaos. They will never use our own military to regain control. So you think about the roles reversed, right? The roles are going to be reversed. Our military be on a stand down, then bring in a foreign force to stabilize the country. They work with our military because our military knows the ground, they know the land, and we do it the same way we did in Afghanistan and Iraq. We use the forces already there to help us maneuver around land. So when everybody says, oh, they're not going to be able to maneuver around our land, yes, if they do this plan, they're going to be able to get around comfortably, because all they're going to do is link these foreign forces up with military people and say, hey, this is your liaison. They're going to show you where to go. So I can see them bringing in another superpower, because their goal has always been to bring down America, to bring us to our knees. And the people are the biggest threat in America. So if they bring the people to our knees with a foreign government who doesn't have to abide by the Constitution, who doesn't play by our government's rules, we're going to see a hell within the next few years. That's my rant.
Here's the question though. Do you think that our current government are the patsies by which China, the CCP will allow that to happen?
Go ahead, Mello.
No, finish what you're about to say first, John.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying, like if what bro is saying is true, and the Chinese government is making these attempts to thwart the lifestyle of the people through whatever means necessary, because that's what they're going to abide by. And the fact that the Chinese government, the Communist Party of the Chinese government, doesn't abide by the Constitution, do you think that they'll also assert their political philosophies into the whims of our government? Because our government's not even following the Constitution.
I feel like they already have. I'm not going to say governmentally, but economic-wise, financially, media-wise, they already have. So I'll take that back. I'm going to take back what I just said. They already done it governmental. And if you want to do another look at it, remember the time they had that big balloon going around America that they kept saying it was from China?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's just say if it wasn't Chinese, it makes America look weak because you had a balloon coming from another country that's a rival country that could have been potentially dangerous, but you didn't do nothing to it for how long?
That's right.
Shows you're scared of them. You know what I mean? It also shows that there's an underlining alliance, kind of like how Russia is with America. We always look at them as natural enemies, but they're really allies. You know what I mean? So I feel like bro's right about that. China's already here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I always talk about, and I keep saying it, I keep telling people to watch it. Everything is a rich man's trick. You will understand why you need to watch that movie, because these powers to be, these elitists, and they're huge. They play both sides of the coin. So if they could say, well, I care about America, whatever, but hey, if China could come in and they win, I'm going to back China. And like Mello said, communism and their way of governing is already in our country. It's been in our country for years. And it's a generational thing. Us Gen X guys and some of you millennials didn't fall for it. But the Gen Z ones, they're really falling for it, and those young millennials. So they got to be able to win the people first with this communism shit. If they can win the people when communism comes, those people, who do you think they're gonna point out who aren't gonna abide by those communist rules? They're gonna use them. Now, everybody thinks it's a conspiracy theory that they have all these FEMA camps all around the country, all these districts. That's real. So if your neighbors are all down with communists, just like the Nazis did, and they'd be like, oh, that guy right there, his name is Michael. He's a patriot. He's dangerous. You need to scoop him up. foreign country comes in here in the middle of the night, boom, jacks you up, takes you to some place, and you'll never be seen again. So it's something that can happen. And with China buying land outside of all these military bases, it's almost normal to see that. So it's a slowly, they're getting people to understand that China's here already. So when they do come, it's not going to be a huge surprise to a lot of people.
I want to also point out the fact that they're building a pipeline in the Caspian Sea for the oil there, pipelines leading only to Europe and Asia. So if Europe's a part of it too, they're already bought in. So I mean, I feel like America's only thing that's slowing America up for the process is trying to figure out who's going to keep a balance of power when they take over. You see what I mean? But yeah, I feel like
they need America to agree. And here, because we've been the superpower for so long, they need to they have to have the world powers see that America is on board with what's going on in China. Now, like I said, the first Bush, when I was covering him, he made multiple deals with China that were unheard of and unprecedented up until that point. And around 1989, I think he first met with them, 1988. And he had actually been over there while he wasn't president before, too. He had been in touch. He had had ties to China for a long time, even during the incident with that president got shot in the head, Kennedy. Mm-hmm. So he had ties even back then. When he finally got in, though, he opened up a whole lot of avenues for China to buy places in Africa, India, multiple places throughout the British Empire, the Caribbean, American soil, South America. He had opened up a whole bunch of treaties for them to be able to do that, and made a whole bunch of deals with them. So the advent of them becoming a superpower started a little bit before, but most of it took root when Bush Sr. came in. When you started seeing them become a secondary power was when the UN started to graft them in. Now, none of the stuff the UN wanted to have done was ever any sanctions against the one country that hardly got any sanctions, if any, was China. Human rights, they never got called out on. Pollution, they never got called out on. The way they handle their citizens never got called out, even to this day. You might hear one or two talks, and when Trump finally did, he was considered a bigot, homophobic, misogynist. Every word you can think of, he was called because he was going after China, and China's not the problem. China is the ally. Now they have the advent of people coming more to the forefront, trying to push a communist agenda. China has been known to not just push it, but to embody in full a communist agenda. And they're looked at as successful because they're getting all of the profits. The government's getting the profits and the citizens are in absolute disarray, but they're looked at as though it's, financially great because their government's doing well, which is everything about socialism. Socialism about people. I don't know how idiots still believe that, but it's not about the people. It's about control of the people.
Well, I mean, you even see it in the sense of the fact that people are seeing McDonald's pop up all around Shanghai and Beijing, mm-hmm. and yet still it's the governmental structure of communism that's terrorizing, people that are not living in those urban areas. So right. It's this neo-communism that looks like it's adopting free market capitalism, but in the end, it's still the government that's legitimately being the totalitarians.
Everything is controlled by them. You can't even, eventually, the way China's going to run it is that you can't even purchase food without a social credit score. So what do you think is going to start happening here? They're already trying to regulate how people operate here. If you don't do a certain thing, you can't interact with certain people. They're already trying to do that here, okay? If they can start breaking down the infrastructure internally to get the citizens into a mindset and a mode, by the international markets, all they're going to have to do then is have America agree that China's way of doing it is better than we've been doing it. And we've been a superpower for so long. And if we can see the benefits of being like China, the rest of the world can see the benefits of being like China, and they can take a back seat to China. I can easily see that being the end result. If they influence the markets of the oil and ores in the Middle East, we are done. because we've kind of hinged our bets on the Middle East being one of our places of strong influence. We lose that, there's nothing else to. We've lost Africa, right? We don't have any more influence in Africa. The Caribbean, long gone. South America, that's slowly fading away because they keep coming here. The only place we had left was our influence over the Middle East and Israel, and that's gone now. So if China moves in there and they're already in the places we've lost influence on, there's nothing left. The only thing left to do now is just have America just say, we're done. We give in to China, and China's just gonna. They're already here. I mean, in America, on American soil, they own what? They're the second largest landowner up behind Bill Gates of American land.
Jeez.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be very hard for one to take America right now, but the way it's going when they're trying to destroy your economy, that also affects the military industrial complex, that affects the military. So if they can destroy our economy and effectively at the same time destroy the military's budget to where they don't even have the funds for defense, that's going to be the one way they move in. Now, the thing that they're not betting on is your average American citizen. And this is why there's such a push for, again, our rifles. There's a huge push for it because they know, and even you can go to any country, they know that behind every blade of grass, there's a what? There's a rifle pointing at them. So they have to push this to get rid of these weapons because that's going to be the only way that happens. And when it happens, we're going to be defenseless. And what can we do? Most people are just going to abide by it, and most people are going to listen. Some people like me are going to be very defiant and not listen. But there's going to be a lot more Americans towing the line than Americans not. And it's going to be a small group of Americans who have to do what we have to do to bring order back. But
you mentioned the military. So let's look at what they're doing currently to the military outside the budget, because they got to take the budget piece by piece. They can't just fully stop funding it. They have to find a way to fund it differently, which they've done. They've now taken the training and put it under the woke banner. They're now changing it from the old school of doing things, which is a hardened, battle-ready combatant, to you have to be aware of people's sensitivities and the feelings behind it. And that's going to incur a whole different type of funding that have nothing to do with battle. So they're going to soften. They're still going to keep the complex running monetarily, but the entire face of it is going to look completely. You're not going to have soldiers like you used to anymore.
Facts.
China, on the other hand, is breaking glass and laying on stone and nails and all this kind of stuff and doing kung fu all over the place, right? They walking on water, everything but walking on water over there. And we over here trying to figure out whether or not the pronoun of the captain should be he or she. You know, so why would it matter if the U.S. in the complex right now is all about funneling money the right way, right? So you take away the protections of the people locally with the police, that's already going woke. And then you take away the entire nation's defense fund by having it turn into another woke campaign. Women must take a forefront. You have a transgender head. You got a cross-dressing leader. You can't say sir or ma'am. You have to say something else. You can't address this next one as a male. This one has to be. They're going to make the military into something that's so soft and malleable by other countries, but they're going to keep the funding up, but in other areas. I think this is part of the whole talk about the defunding thing. They'll take it. They give you the shock value of defunding, and they say, okay, maybe that's a step too far. So we'll fund it differently. We're just going to fund mental health, but we're not really helping mental health. We're creating mental ineptitude. And I think that's going to be the next step for the military industrial complex. It won't be war anymore. It'll be subservitude to the rest of the countries under the banner of being woke. And before too long, we won't be able to depend on them, which is kind of a good thing for U.S. citizenry. It's kind of a good thing for the militia, because then the militia will be out there being stronger than the U.S. military. So it might end up being a good thing for those who want to rebel.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about.
the hardened war veterans who aren't wanting to kowtow to he, she, shim, shim, sure, all kind of nonsense, they'll just leave.
Yep.
And the local militia will just start growing. Now,
I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, I said there's going to be a lot, like you said, a lot of military people that are the hardened ones that are still that old school mentality are going to leave. There's going to be a lot of law enforcement that does it, believe it or not. There's still going to be some military and some law enforcement that total line that'll be out there doing sick shit to their own citizens. But you're going to have a lot of people there. Believe it or not, there's a lot more people who are against it than what's talked about. But as you said, I can see them like you're right, funding the military in other ways, more social programs, more, kinder getting hugs and fucking unicorns. Sorry, I said that for you. Hugs, unicorns, and rainbows. You know what I mean? You're going to see a lot of equipment go to crap because they're not going to be putting any money to maintain it. When I was in, that's where the majority of our money went, was to maintain our equipment. They're going to start pulling that back. There's no need for it. We're not at war anymore. There's no need to keep this vehicle up. There's no need to keep this piece of equipment. And when that time comes and they strike, what are we going to have? A bunch of broke down freaking equipment, and we won't be able to defend ourselves. So that's how they're going to hit us. They're going to break the military, give them just enough kibbles of bits to keep them in, to keep them happy, while their equipment goes to crap, their training goes to crap. So when that time comes, these people aren't going to know what to do. And like you said, it's going to be the modern day citizen, the militias, the former military, the former police officers are going to be out there doing the Lord's work.
Which is why I don't think it'll be a war that comes from outside.
Yeah.
I think if America has to fight, it will not be China invading, because they already won. They have America. Okay, government-wise, China owns America, both in the deficit of what we owe them and the kind of intellectual properties that they have over us. They're winning. They're ahead of the game. We can't even sanction them properly for the stuff that we have that they own. We can't do anything. The next war coming will be won on the battlefield of an emotional level outside the U.S., but inside here is where I think the blood will be shed. Because I think what they'll end up having to do is what the first phase of China had to do to get their citizens under control. They had to exterminate a whole bunch of citizens to get where they got now. But the reason the Chinese people aren't fighting back is they understand what the Chinese military and the government will do. They have no problem running you over with a tank. They have no problem nuking an entire province to get their point across. That's the level that China's at. So I don't see that being a problem for the U.S. government either. They're going to just do it more sinister. Of course, you got a clown like Biden in power. He's probably going to end up sanctioning it anyway. And if we end up not getting somebody like Trump back in power in the next phase, and they do manage to get a second Democrat president somehow, we're done. Like, I mean, done. There will be no coming back from it. We'll eventually have to fold, or you'll see a secession of powers within the confines of the United States, and you'll have a war, an internal war. It may not end up being like the Civil War, but it will be pretty stinking close. You will have some militia factions that fight, and you'll have the military that will turn inwards to try and get the people to come under subserviency. And those that don't want to, either in prison, or you get executed, or you get sent somewhere else, or you decide to leave or go into hiding, and they'll just leave you alone because you have nothing left to offer or hinder the country with. You go off grid, and it won't even matter to them if you're off grid, because you can't do anything. So I can see that easily being the problem. Here's the other issue. If the UN is going to do what they're already planning to do, which is what Biden handed them the power to do, which is roll into U.S. territory and handle things on the next, I'm trying not to say that word, the next Agenda 2030 that they have coming.
Yeah.
Where they try to shut everything down again and the UN rolls in, you might see that kick it off. I could see that kicking off the next internal war, because people ain't gonna fall for the second time.
No. Yeah, the WHO and all them who have power over our country, just in case the next, I can see, like you said, I can see it kicking off then, and all hell's going to break loose. But again, there has to be a trigger point. And I think with the economy crashing, and the market's going to crash really soon, I think they're going to have to do something, because at that time, people are going to understand that their money's not worth nothing. They don't have any food in their house. They can't do this. They can't do that. They're going to have to lock down the country to maintain order. People aren't going to allow themselves to be locked down when their family needs food, when they can't. So what do you think people are going to be out there doing? They're going to be out there revolting. The police aren't going to do too much. The National Guard's not going to do too much. And then they're going to say, we need to bring in an outside source because they didn't say, remember when he signed that with the WHO, he didn't say what type of pan. He said a pan. So they can declare that to be anything, climate, martial law, riots. Mm-hmm. So all they got to say is, hey, we have this going on right now. There's American citizens riots. We need the WHO to send in the UN. Next thing you know, the UN's walking our freaking streets. And guess who's going to be in control of that? China. China's going to be in. They're going to be the higher headquarters for the UN, not America.
I like what you guys said. You guys kind of answered every question I had because you guys said the same thing I was thinking. But I like the fact you put a financial edge to it that made me kind of understand a little more. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a secondary agenda that Biden has under the UN, and that is to hand over not just military and diplomatic control to them, but a complete subserviency to the UN. Now, remember that the UN was the one that was pushing, they in conjunction with the US, the pushing of trying to show Russia as the bad guy. They were the ones that were really pushing for people to understand that Russia is the one behind the Ukraine thing. They never talked about Ukraine. The UN never talked about Ukraine when there was the deal with Hunter and the deal with the oligarchs there and Burisma. None of that. They never said a word about that. The instant Trump showed up and started exposing Ukraine fully, all of a sudden now they had to bring Russia back into the conversation as the bad guy. Because Russia was the second powerhouse that didn't want to go along with everything the UN was doing. They were dealing with China like the US was, but they didn't want anything to do with giving up their sovereignty. So when a company doesn't want to give up their sovereignty, what do? You send in your brown shirts. You send in the bullies. Or you paint them as the bad guy, just like they did Trump. Trump became the ultimate evildoer throughout the whole globe. He's trying to be a homophobe and a xenophobe and every kind of phobe on earth. So you got to shut them down because your agenda, when he made that deal with the UN in 2022, December of last year, he handed over a bunch of protocols to them as to what would take place if certain events took place on American soil. I don't know how many of you are aware of what exactly and what role the Ukraine war played in getting that deal done, but it was a massive deal. It was kind of the linchpin of the whole thing. And they called it an effort to bring global security. That term of global, everything, global, but it wasn't. It was just China's security. Everyone's beholden to China at this point. And I think it all began with the amount of land that they grabbed, the amount of resources that they have, and the intellectual property they stole from so many people. They have the upper hand now. We are just kind of hold on to what we got for the time being. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I can see how you're right too about it, only because if you look at Iran to be run fundamentally and have the well-being for their own people, they need China. Like, you know what I'm saying? They have to. So the minute you said that about America, I just thought the same thing. Like, that's proof in the pudding right there.
Mm-hmm.
They just took over Iran with the whole capital, their oil, their biggest resource itself.
Mm-hmm.
They came to America, which are only 2 steps away from that. Imagine what's going to happen. My question is, what do you think about the Civil War? Like, how long do you think that'll?
Here in America?
Like, if, for instance, if we go along with what you guys just said
Mm-hmm.
about how there would be a war, how it would spark off, how there would be a revolt, how far do you think that can go?
I could see a civil war.
Yeah, it could
7 months or
last.
so. I would say about
Yeah.
6 to 7, maybe a year. It might go on.
It
You're
could
talking about a lot, maybe a fourth of the population that's right now, a fourth of the population that are either affiliated or in a militia group right now. Easily a fourth. Now, if you bank on a fourth of that fourth actually fighting, you're looking at probably about 6 to 7 months of fighting. Because, like I said, they're kind of having a tough deal. They have all the equipment to fight the U.S. citizens, no problem. What they may not have, because they're going the route of the woke, they may not have the guts to do it. the army people that are left. They may not have the balls to do it. The problem is they're fighting for something that they partially believe in, whereas the militia will be fighting for something they fully believe in. And a lot of people that will go out to fight have already resolved that death is a better deal than living under a dictatorship. Those are dangerous people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are worse than military people any day, which is why we had such a hard time with the Afghanis and the Iraqi people, because they would prefer to die than to live under a dictatorship like America was trying to put on them, right? So if you have those kinds of people now translated to the American citizenry, you have a problem on your hands, because you got some crazy people out there in America that look, they've been collecting guns for a long time. You put their crazy behinds against the fence, you looking at some trouble.
And Marlon, we talked about this before in our earlier episodes about you have to worry about the citizens that are trained. They're just because we're civilians, we're not a bunch of pushovers. You know what I mean? I did almost 22 years training.
Did he freeze?
He froze.
Quite the timing.
Easily blend in. And all that, you know, I can blend in. I got the uniform still. You don't think I can just put on a uniform, a vest, and a helmet, and just walk up and be like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?"
Give some commands and be done.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta make sure you wear at least some pink on there, because that's what you're gonna need to get in.
But they wouldn't know the damn difference. You know what I mean? And that's what it's going to be coming down to. A lot of us fought in guerrilla style warfare. You know, we're going to be using the same tactics that we trained for during the whole the whole Iraq and Afghanistan war. Same tactics that will have to be used. But, you know, there were some people here talking about Putin. You know, I get it. You know, people love Putin, but, you know, if you look at it, and I'm gonna bring up the Bible, but if you look at it in a biblical aspect, look up Magog and look up Gog, and look up who Magog is. Magog is Russia. Gog is the leader of Magog. And when it talks about Russia, China, and Africa, all these nations get together, and it's not going to be good for us.
So here's the fact sheet with what Biden did, right? This is all the stuff that he signed off on. So this is one of the promoting a free, open, inclusive, and secure digital future, right? During the U.S. presidency of the UN Security Council in May, UN hosted a signature event focused on the responsible use of digital technologies. This topic is new and has historically rarely been discussed in the council, and gave members an opportunity to address both opportunities and challenges of Security Council faces to harness the power of digital technologies to advance global peace and security, which Ambassador Thomas Greenfield further explored in an op-ed for The Economist during Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield's visit to the Bay Area in September. She hosted a discussion with leaders of U.S.-based companies, including Alphabet, Airbnb, Meta. You see which groups are included here. I hope people are not blind to the ones here. Microsoft, Visa, and at Stanford University. The roundtable highlighted opportunities of tech companies to play constructive roles in addressing global security issues, including through collaboration with the United Nations. This is the pivotal point here. Now, remember, I told you that their whole plan was to break down the U.S.'s financial sector, right? These are the people right now in charge of that. These three are pretty much in charge of anything financial right now.
And don't forget, Alphabet stands for Google. Alphabet is the Google parent company.
They can control what the media sends out, what you receive, what you know, what you don't know, what you go to, what sites you visit. They monitor all of it, how you shop. These are the people. So if they want to influence a certain demographic, they have the entire UN backing to do it. And your president has signed off on that power structure to the UN with the help of Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Visa.
I mean, you just look at it. Meta is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. So that deals with our social interactions. Microsoft handles a lot more of the electronics-based type stuff, like your software, and Visa handles the financial.
They have
that in and of itself. And then obviously you have Alphabet, which controls a large portion of our information. Google,
What we
just
see,
Google
yeah.
it. Google's free.
And
And an
connections.
Airbnb, yeah, Airbnb is just is part of the lifestyle backing. So
They have
it's like,
everything covered.
yeah,
They have everything covered, and they have everything prepped. Okay, this is part of their prep work. This is part of their prep work. First, break down the internal workings of the country. This is a communist man. This is a Marxist move. This is what you got to do. Break down internally, create a dependency. When you realize you can't have the dependency of the inside, you go to the outside and bringing the people that are doing exactly that, and you depend on them. Now you have a company. That's what China is going to end up being as a company, parent company. They're going to buy in America. They're going to start telling the company of America how to deal with things. The U.S. start telling them how to deal with things. If you don't comply, you get dealt with. Now, in most places, you have protests. We will have to come to a full-on revolt in order for that to not have an effect on us. So we either have two things taking place: a war that will wipe out, or a war that will have us secede, and we won't have anything to do with the U.S. government and China, and we will be the alienated folk here on the in U.S. soil. Either way, a head's going to have to pop up, and we're going to come to it at some point. And we have to start looking at what the government's starting to do, what divisions they're starting to put down, and who they're making deals with. And so far, we are in trouble. They're making deals with China and the UN. And now, of course, they're trying to dabble in everything else to do with Ukraine. At that point, America is done. There's no longer, all right, what was it now? 200 plus years, 250 plus years we've been around?
247.
Yeah, we'll be done. We'll be done. We might make 255.
I know
I know that.
250 on the dot.
I know because I'm a bicentennial baby. So no.
well, a lot of social scientists would assert that such types of, I guess you could say, empires like America has had I guess goes through 250-year cycles of rising and falling. So it's like due time, I guess you could say, because you look at Rome. Rome kind of collapsed in on itself. It imploded, and look where we are now.
Hey, like I said, Soros said this. He said this was the plan, and he's taken down countries before.
And you know, a lot of reason why these empires fell. Rome, there's a couple other one. The Greeks, the Spartans, they all fell. It was mainly through social issues. When they started putting social issues in the forefront of their society, and the military or the defense was put in the back. And I'm not just talking about defense military. I'm talking about just defending the very core of our country. People stopped caring about that back then. So they only cared about their social issues, their sexuality, partying, having sex. So slowly their society started to crumble and getting taken over by outside entities because they knew that they were weak. And this is what's happening to America right now. I remember growing up, America was so dang patriotic, man. You couldn't walk outside your house without seeing an American flag.
Yep.
Nowadays, it's frowned upon if you wave an American flag. No one cares about America. They want to strip rights. They don't want you to keep rights. They want to party. They want to drag shows. They talk about sexuality, everything sex. That's all they talk about. They don't care what's going on in the world. And I did a Facebook post about this. I said, you have everybody up here in these Facebook lives. All they ever talk about is social issues. When the stock market is crashing, our dollar's about to crash, food is scarce, and all this stuff is going on, but they don't care about that. And that's how these other empires fell. That's just a rant.
I want to jump on that Roman thing real fast. Isn't this just another version of the Roman Empire?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And then we're making the same exact issues. Actually, everything the Romans did to get torn down, America built themselves off of that same exact principle.
Same model.
I'm surprised it lasted this long.
The way our military is, the way we move in our military, it's the same concept. You're right. Everything that the Romans did.
The crazier part is we send our kids to an American college to learn American law when there's no such thing as American law. It's all Babylonian and Roman law. So we went against our own constitution by learning a foreign law in America. And then we use that to lock other people up. That's crazy.
I I would argue that the American justice system is built primarily on the philosophy of Athens and the morality of Jerusalem,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, the problem is that we try to incorporate way too much
Yeah.
without real, true morality. A lot of the morality that we're talking about here, the world, at least on the US's level, is not actual morality. It's just whatever the so-called majority likes or what is
That's right.
needing to be pushed at the time. Okay, let's think of it this way: is it moral for a child to be transitioned? No, but it's become now a normality as something morally right to do. Abortion as now morally right to do because they have no real moral moorings. They just have
Right.
a concept, and it's moral if I feel it is, and it's also moral if I want it to be, not because it's by nature moral because they don't
Right.
understand
Yeah.
what morality is. So
Yeah.
you're going to end up having like I said, this is where the split's going to happen. You're going to end up having people who stick to an actual moral compass versus people who teeter-totter back and forth, and what they want is what they want, and it changes to the next day, which is why you have gender fluidity and all that stupid crap. So you're going to end up having people that are solid, steady, and then you're going to have a group of people that want things to continually move towards the depraved. Like I said, it will all have to come to a head at some point, either by force or by nature. Something has to give at some point. The two, because they can't meet. What they want and what we want will never be the same. It will never be the same. So one of us has to either give up. It has to be one of us has to be an immovable object, or one of us has to be an unstoppable force. And something has to give at some point. But either way, they're going to clash. They're going to clash at some point. Our job, I think, is to just be watching to see which one's getting the most traction so we can strategize how to combat it, because it's going to eventually get worse. They're going to keep pushing this. They're going to try and get more kids. They're going to try and get more things pushed through the government system. They're going to try and break down American government even more. And before too long, China's going to end up be rolling down the streets with their tanks, and it's people, oh, that's so far-fetched. It ain't far-fetched. It ain't far-fetched at all. You just watch. You're going to see people are seeing UN things popping up all over this country.
And China could be rolling around in American vehicles if it came down to it, and you'd be looking out, you'll see an American tank, and you're wondering like, hey, it's an American. No, it's not. No, it's
Ling's
not.
in there, bro.
China.
It's China. So keep your
Ling's
eyes
driving
open.
that tank.
And that's so real. That's so real.
It's something that can happen. I mean, open borders. How do there weren't those Chinese immigrants caught on the southern border? How the heck they get all the way down there? So just
and the northern border, there are tons of them coming from
and
Canada.
Just think about that as a test. They're like, let's see if these Chinese people can walk across the border. They got caught. So now they got to figure out another way. If we can just blend them in with their borders wide open. Let's just blend them in. And they're letting them in. So imagine them slowly but surely just moving Chinese troops in, acting as immigrants in the southern border, and you're not even paying attention. Next thing you know, you got a division. You got a division. So they know if they flew them in, Americans will be all bing, bing, bing. They'll be on high alert. But so they have to do it in other ways. So
that's probably why they want the border open so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of that. That's crazy. You just put me on something. Wow, that's obvious, but
well, I mean, they're kind of sort of doing a pincer move. If what Bro's saying is true, and there are Chinese soldiers that are pushing from the south, you already have blackface Justin Trudeau saying, "Oi, come in, China. You're good. Yeah, come in, mate." It's like, bro.
They'll come from the north, come from the south, and they're already here. So they got a sandwich. It's quite the debacle.
Isn't it a pincer move?
But like I said, a lot of it hinges in time as to who gets the next president. People will say, well, the president, it does matter, especially if you have someone that's not going along with it. We can delay it. I'm not saying it can reverse it. It can give us a little more time to try and figure what our next move is, as opposed to just dumping us straight in there, which is why a lot of it matters, which is why I also think they're going to try and shut down 2024. That's just me. Still believe that. Still fully believe that.
I wouldn't put it
The
back.
only way they're going to, well, and that's highly, highly possible. You got to think, again, the economy is crashing.
Mm-hmm.
All these banks, the stock market is going to crash. That's forecasted already. That's going to crash. And so we'll be almost a year out by that time frame. They're going to be like, oh, there's no way we can have an election. We have to freaking institute martial law. Once they institute martial law, guess what? There's no elections. The Constitution is null and void. So that's a huge possibility.
You're done.
There will be no elections. And guess who we're stuck with?
Well, I mean, he probably gonna go away. Let's be real. He probably got one good year left in him. So
And all they got to do is plug them back into the charger.
chill. Oh snap!
It's interesting though.
You're gonna see him come.
He needs an upgrade. That's why Bill Gates loves him so much. Bill Gates is like, let me give you an upgrade real quick.
He said chocolate chip ice cream.
Chocolate chip.
I'm Joe Biden.
Chocolate chip.
You know why he likes chocolate chip ice cream? Because his batteries inside that clone are overheating. That cyborg, they start overheating, so he needs ice cream to cool it off.
No, that's what the kids like, man. The kids like the chocolate chips.
Oh yeah, the roaches crawling on his legs.
You know, one reason why I brought this up to Marlon though, especially with the whole Israel Saudi Arabia oil thing going on, doesn't it sound close to Israel making peace?
Yeah.
I was gonna say something about
And
that.
we already know what comes after that. It's just like it's so soon. It's like crazy. It's like dang.
Man, you're on the same wavelength as me.
It's all matter of time.
Now you think about and going to what you're saying. What is one of the things that these powers that be always talk about? Safety and security, peace and security. You remember in the Bible it said when they promise peace and security, what's going to come?
Run.
Sudden destruction, right? So here's what I see happening. You have Russia, Magog, you have China, and you have parts of Africa that are all in on this BRICS thing. Who's the one true ally that we have in the Middle East?
Israel.
You mean?
Or
Probably.
right now, it's still on paper, kind of, sort of.
UK.
Israel, right? And who do they hate? Who do all those countries truly hate?
Oh yeah, they hate Israel.
Us.
They hate us, but they also hate Israel.
Yeah.
So
Until
with
Israel
these-
makes peace.
Yeah, with all these powers getting together, who do you think they're going to go after to knock? Because they don't need nobody in the middle of that's going to be able to fight them. They have to go after Israel. But that's where it's going to stay, and that's where it's going to end. It's not going to go any further than that. But just think about that. That's why I was like, Putin sounds good on camera, but I don't know, man. He's getting in with China and all this stuff.
It's an observation game at this point. We really have to be an observation game at this point.
So hey, bro, I got a question for you. Like when you talk about martial law here in the United States and the institution of martial law, like the fact that we've seen a light version of it during 2020. How much of it do you think will trick the average American into some sort of a comfortable martial law? Because that's what they have to do now.
Well, I think this is me. This is my opinion. I think that it's going to start off in the same manner because people are already in tune with it. Hey, there's another something that's happened. We're going back to this. Only essential people can leave the house. Something else is going to trigger. Okay, everyone needs to be in the house. And it's just going to be this gradual to the point to where it's going to be at some point people start revolting and be like, screw that. I'm not staying in the house. And then that's when they would kick off martial law because people would need to get out and get food, water, whatever. Then it'd be like, nobody leaves. If you leave, you will be arrested. And the lockdown is going to be for so many days. So say 2 weeks. The lockdown is going to be for 2 weeks to get order. By that time, I can see them because people are going to be communicating and talking to each other still and on the internet and doing everything else. They're going to shut down everything to where now you can't even communicate. You don't know what's going on outside your little house. If you don't know what's going on outside of what the fake news is telling you, the fake news can tell you that everything's okay. We're working it out while these foreign forces are slowly moving in like a thief in the night. And you wake up and you got Ching Chong Ping out here staring you in the face with a rifle. What's his name? Jing Jong Ping, guys, whatever his name.
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping's guy.
Xi Jinping.
Yeah, that guy. Marching down the street, and you're waking up, drinking your morning coffee, and you're looking outside your window. Next thing you know, UN troops or some type of foreign troop is here, and people are going to be like, "How did this freaking happen?"
I'm going to call him the coin collector.
So martial law is coming. I'm telling you, when that market crashes and the dollar goes kaput, and it ain't worth nothing, and all the banks shut down, you're not going to have any access to your money.
Yeah.
You're not. They're gonna shut it down. People will revolt. They're not going to care about no dang thing, whatever
Lockdown.
that thing. You know, they're not going to care about that.
They're done.
Yeah.
I want to jump in on what bro just said, but I'm gonna take another direction just for the people who are commenting. When we said thing about Israel, we all understood we were talking about the panel. What you guys missed is if you read the Bible, it actually speaks about Israel going to war, and it says right when Israel makes peace is when the 7 years of tribulation starts. So that means basically I'm trying to tell y'all Jesus come back. I'm not sure if I can say Jesus on that, but you know.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But the reason why I said that was because what bro just said about martial law makes a lot more sense. Because if they lock us in and take away food and resources like that, we would have to.
Need the mark.
You need the mark. You know what I'm saying? You can need that GPC code to get the food. So that goes along with the mark of the beast coming in. Like this is so soon. That's crazy.
I'm turning into Batman right now. I'm gonna just become Batman. I'm done.
And those that don't take the mark will be shamed. And here's how this all leads up. You remember when COVID first started? If you weren't wearing a mask, you were publicly shamed. If you didn't get the stickety pop stick, you were publicly shamed. These are all litmus tests. Let's see how the American people shame their fellow citizen. The news would do it. And so if you walked without a mask, it happened to me at Austin Airport. Some old lady come up here screaming in my face. She got the business though, you know, but my son and I, she was yelling at us for not wearing a mask. I went the hell off. And that's just a test. So imagine, you know, martial law, and they'd be like, you know, they slowly, hey, if you tell us which one of your neighbors is this, that, and the other, we'll give you, oh, that guy right across the street. You know, that's how it's going to start. Now what they're building is they're building a loyalty. This person is going to be on our side when the foreign troops come. Red Dawn. And then when I find out, hey, I'm gonna make it do what it do, you know. Yeah, it's all leading up. You know, this has been prophesized for years. A lot of people don't believe in it, but if you just look around and look at the world and look at what's going on, this is all written. You may not believe it, you may not trust it, but
I don't believe it was. I don't believe it was. I think it was a precursor to it, but I don't believe it was. I believe that actual treaty that will make peace over there will be a completely different one under a different premise that they can easily backtrack on. Now, remember, you have to be able to backtrack on it. They have to give the illusion of it and then pull away from it. I don't think that the Abrahamic Accords was that. I think there's something else coming.
Yeah, remember the
go ahead. I'm sorry.
My bad, bro. The real thing about that 7-year treaty and the peace between Israel is not only the fact that they have peace, it's whoever brokers that peace is the person you got to pay attention to.
Yeah.
That's why I know it hasn't happened yet, because the person who brokers it is the Antichrist. Let's be real.
Yeah, and one thing about getting peace in Israel, you know, for one, Israel is going to be surrounded, and they're going to be surrounded by some heavy hitters, you know, heavy hitters. So they could say, hey, we're going to
important.
Yeah, and we're going to bring you into BRICS, and this is what we'll offer you. And Israel, and we'll offer you peace and security. These outside countries won't mess with you. We're going to offer you peace and security. You can be your own sovereign land. We won't mess with Israel no more. And then when Marlon said they're going to backtrack on that.
Backtrack on that sucker.
They're going to backtrack on it.
Hey, look, I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. I'm ready. I am ready.
Sudden destruction.
Bring it on,
peace
buddy.
and security and sudden destruction. Now, will this tribulation last for a whole 7 years? I don't know. Everybody has their beliefs on the tribulation, pre-trib, tribulation.
Man, I don't
you
care.
know, you don't know how many.
I
You don't know how many years. Yeah, you don't know how many.
I ain't trying to be here at all.
You don't know how many years is 7 years to God. You know, 7 years can be a couple hours. Yeah, we don't know.
No, bro, there are specifics to that. It's like 3.5 years of total peace, and then right after that 3.5 year marker, depending on how you read it, that's when the trouble starts.
Well, but we don't know when that.
Yeah, and I don't care. That's the thing. I don't care.
We don't know when. We don't know when that.
I ain't gonna be here. I'm gone.
Hey, if you believe in the rapture, just know if you believe in the rapture, just understand they're going to fool a lot of people too, and not everyone's going to get raptured because some martyrs are going to have to be here to continue to fight. But I keep talking about Operation Bluebeam. Just remember, you start seeing people start disappearing. You better think first. Be like, wait a minute, why am I still here? So just
Either way, I'm good. Either way, I'm good.
All right,
got up
hopefully
this
I'm
morning.
good.
I don't want to think about it. If I'm still here, if you watching this, come find me. You know what I'm saying? Let's feed me. Let's build a bunker or something. Come help me out. Because if I'm still here, I'm gonna beat myself. I'm telling
I'm
you.
like, dang it. No,
Well,
if
you
you're
know
still
what?
here, you still have a chance for redemption now.
Yeah, there you go.
True. I'm trying to go in the first go round. I don't have time for all that.
I want to go
7
top
years.
draft, first round in the
Hey.
draft.
Hey, come on now. I want to know for a fact I made it. Like,
You don't want to be
man.
Mr. Irrelevant. You don't want to go to 189.
Nah.
Okay, all right. Please watch this quick commercial break before we close this out.
Hey you, would you like Too Strong to promote your product or your social media platform? We have over 200,000 subscribers and followers combined. We'll promote your product or channel in the beginning of our live show. You can also provide us a link and we'll put it in our comment section forever. Get started today. All you have to do is email us at toostrongpodcast@gmail.com. Any and all promotions are subject to approval by Fair Media.
There we go. Well, people, Friday. Don't think we have a topic picked out yet, but I do want to address the shooting. If you guys are down for that on Friday.
Yeah.
And that includes calling out all the crazies that are the transgender movement. So I'm still trying to figure out how to paint it up. So if you guys can help me figure out how to paint it up
Oh, yeah,
today.
that's easy. I've been
Send
on
me
Yeah,
that.
some
I'm
content.
tired of this mental health excuse. This mess is getting overrated.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Go to
Yeah,
I'm
Twitter.
tired of the hypocrisy of it.
So we'll talk about the shooting on Friday and Biden's ridiculous response as well. We'll, since people think it's a totally different speech that he's
Chocolate
talked about
chip.
the ice cream, we'll prove you wrong and make you look like the idiots you are. So just hey, you can show up or not. You can show up or not, but either way, you're gonna get looking like an idiot because you think he didn't say it. But you can keep defending the pedo in chief all you want, but he's still a pedo in chief. So enjoy
Yes.
that little trip down memory lane when you come and find it. Until then, and in the meantime, you all stay safe out there, and we'll catch you guys on the next Savage Patriots on Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. We'll
Take
catch
it
you guys
easy.
later. Peace.